Hello, it's Trevor Bullen here again for the Nursery and Garden Industry of Victoria Rediscover Your Garden program. Today I'm going to talk a little about acid soils and alkaline soils and why they're important when it comes to growing plants. Certain plants like certain types of soils. Some plants grow well in acid soils and some plants grow better in a more alkaline soil. So you might well say, well, how do I know what sort of soil I've got? Have I got an alkaline soil? Have I got an acid soil? What I'm going to show you today is how you can test that soil and work out what you've got. So one of the best ways to do it is get yourself a simple soil testing kit like this. You can buy probes that you can put in the ground and determine what your soil pH is, but I don't find they're super accurate unless you spend quite a lot of money on them. So I find this method of testing your soil for alkalinity or acidity is the easiest way to go. So what we do first to be able to test our soil is we need to take a small sample. Now I've collected a sample a little while ago. So what we do is we take around about a dessert spoon of soil and we sprinkle it onto this little card here. We then take some of this indicator dye and we pour that onto the soil like that. Then we take our little stick and we just mix that up. So it's sort of a bit like a paste, and you can just see that sort of glistening away there. And then what we do is we take some of the powder here and we squirt that on. And immediately you can see some colour there, and that's what we're looking for. So that colour tells us what type or whether this is an acidic soil or an alkaline soil. And what we actually then do is we match up our little colour chart here, and we can see from this that the pH of this soil is around about 6.5 to 7, which is absolutely perfect for growing the majority of plants. Now I've also done some tests a little earlier on just to show you some of the variations you can get. So if you have a look at this sample on my right, you can see that's quite purple, and you can see that the pH of that soil is up around 8.5, so that is really quite alkaline. One of the things you find with some plants grown in alkaline soils is they get this sort of appearance on the leaf, and that's actually iron deficiency, and that's created by the high pH of that soil. This was another sample of soil I also took a little earlier on, and you can see this one is very acidic. So this is about 4.5, or has a pH of about 4.5. Now the problem with this soil is that it tends to cause a calcium deficiency in your plants. So therefore, if you're growing things like tomatoes and that, you'll often end up with blossom end rot on your tomatoes. So unless you're growing an acid-loving plant, this soil has is too acidic for most plants. So you might say, well, I've got a soil like this, what am I going to do? How am I going to change it? Well, the simple way, if you've got an acid soil, is just to add lime to it. And the lime that I like to add is called dolomite, because not only does it add some calcium, but it also adds some magnesium to your soil, and that'll actually sweeten that soil. If you've got this scenario where you've got an alkaline soil, that's a little bit more difficult because you can put sulphur on there to reduce the pH, but it's very slow acting. So what I tend to do, if I had a soil like this, I would actually mix it with some material that is quite acidic, and you could even take an acid soil and mix that in there, and quite often you'll end up with a soil like that. So it's fairly important with your soils, you try and get this sort of range here. If you get this sort of mid-range, 6.5 to 7, then you should be able to grow most of your plants. Thanks for listening.